the Supreme Court here really rejected wholeheartedly that broad theory that people said would have potentially upended the way that elections are run. The Chief Justice here, writing for the 6-3 majority, came in to say that no, state legislatures do not have the final say when it comes to how elections in their state should be run, that state courts have the authority to step in and potentially overrule some of the laws or rules that partisan state legislatures might put into effect.
There it is. I'm gonna give you 2 thumbs up on this one, Supreme Court of the United States. Now let's bring you up to speed. This all stems from the Moore v. Harper case out of North Carolina. By a 6-3 vote, the court rejected the independent state legislature theory in a case about North Carolina's congressional map. The once-fringe legal theory broadly argued that state courts have little or no authority to question the state legislatures on election laws for federal contests. The court's decision in Moore v. Harper closes the path to what could have been a radical overhaul of America's elections. Further, a particularly robust reading of the theory, which the court turned aside, would have empowered state legislatures to make decisions on all aspects of elections, from congressional lines to how people register to vote and cast a ballot, without any opportunity for challengers to contest those decisions in state courts under state law or constitutions. Opponents of the theory argued that it could have led to unchecked partisan gerrymandering and laws that would make it harder for people to vote. And I think the key word there in this reporting is coming from Politico is unchecked. Now, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the court's opinion, joined by the 3 liberal justices, Sonia Sotomayor, Elaine Keegan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, along with 2 conservatives, Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Gorsuch dissented. No surprise about Justice Clarence Thomas, who has been just quite the disappointment. Now, my stunt double did check in on Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch, and this is what she said. This is a good outcome, but also terrifying that 3 justices dissented, and it really is. Aida, your thoughts?
You know, it's funny. There are levels to this, right? We have to think about the history that, well, what we've been dealing with in the news with Clarence and Alito and their ties and affiliations to billionaires, and potentially threatening our democracy with what they're doing in terms of dealing with corporations and with people who want to run this country for the benefit of the rich. I am relieved that these people who call themselves religious fundamentalists I don't know if they took the humanity of people of color, Black people, into consideration and poor people when they thought about this. But I'm certainly glad that at some point their God did show up for them to be fair, because fair is fair. And I think it's a scary time when we're now looking at the Supreme Court sideways. That was the one place where we at least thought that there was dignity and that there was justice and fairness. And now that we've been hearing the information has been coming to light about what's been happening behind the scenes. Clarence Thomas's wife was involved in the insurrection. That was a direct threat to our democracy and an attack on our democracy. I think it's important that these justices lean in a way that is fair.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I was stunned. Absolutely stunned at the Supreme, but we gotta give credit where credit is due, at least in these cases. And many of the state legislatures across this country are controlled by Republicans, and you can see in those states they are really turning back the hands of time, passing laws to restrict voter access. And check out this reporting from the New York Times in May of this year about these types of legislatures. Propelled by a new coalition of Trump allies, Republican-led legislatures have continued to pass significant restrictions on access to the ballot, including new limits to voting by mail in Ohio, my home state, a ban on ballot drop boxes in Arkansas, and the shortening of early voting windows in Wyoming. Also, so far this year, 18 bills in 10 states have been signed into law that will add new restrictions to voting or elections administration, according to an analysis of the data maintained by the Voting Rights Lab. During the same period in 2021, the tally was 16 restrictive bills in 11 states, according to Voting Rights Lab. So thank you for that, New York Times. So, I mean, yeah, this is a big moment for democracy, what just happened in the United States Supreme Court. It is surprising because the court leans very heavily conservative, but as Aida said, God may have showed up in court today or a few days ago too. Let's hope God shows up more often.